All right, fellas, people of the internet car community, let's have a real talk for a moment and get with a rhetorical question. Now, you have $6,000 burning a hole in your pocket. You are a massive fan of rallying and Colin McRae in particular. You love the taste of Monster energy drinks and you crave the smell of burning oil in the morning. So which Subaru is the best for you? For $6,000, you can get a decent condition second generation Forester with a manual transmission and some tasteful modifications, or the best WRX that you can buy at this price point, which has an automatic transmission. I have, over the past year I've owned this car, done a fair amount of complaining about the fact that it only has an automatic transmission because that's all that I could afford for the $5,400 price point that I got it at. But I'm wondering, is the lack of a turbocharger and the desirable name of the WRX worth it just for this manual transmission? Well, that's what we're here to find out. These are two Subarus from around the same era, so they're similar in a lot of ways. Full-time all-wheel drive, 4-cylinder boxer engines, some head gasket problems, and definitely some oil burning problems. But that's really where the similarities end. It's a tale of two wagons? It's a bit hard to call these things wagons because the Impreza WRX wagon is quite small for being a wagon, and even though these earlier Foresters look like wagons, they're supposed to be SUVs, but it's definitely a debatable thing for both of these cars. But what they do have is the typical Subaru sound, the typical Subaru stereotypes, hundreds of thousands of miles of decay and unreliability. But we're going to take a look at each of them and then take them out for a drive and determine which is the best for your money. For $6,000, you could get a decent-ish Forester, second generation with higher miles and a manual transmission. I should mention that the second generation was available with a turbocharger, which this one does not have because there's no hood scoop. You can easily tell that. But instead, it does have some tasteful off-road modifications like a small lift and some off-road tires that only catch on the wheel arches now and then, but we'll forget about that. What's important about this car in particular? Manual transmission. Again, the Forester was always sold as Subaru's small, mid-sized crossover from 1998 all the way up to the present day, and the first two generations looked quite wagon-like for bearing the SUV name. It's no surprise is the first SUV to do away with the standard "this car will roll over if you turn the wheel too hard on the highway" warning that you get on the sun visor. The Foresters did not have that because, as you can tell, the center of gravity is a lot lower than, say, in my Freelander. So that in turn also makes it handle better, but it hurts ground clearance. Some of the more creative Subaru owners like to put off-road modifications on them. I don't like it when people lower Foresters. Doesn't sit well with me. There was also a Forester STI, but we never got that in the United States, which kind of stinks. Underneath the hood here is a 2.5 liter boxer 4-cylinder with no turbocharger in sight and around a it also weighs quite a lot more than the WRX, so in terms of performance, the WRX does have the edge over the Forester, or does it, with a 4-speed automatic. So we move on from the more interesting Subaru choice for $6,000 to what a lot of people would consider to be the most obvious one, including me. This is my 2004 Impreza WRX wagon that I could only afford if I got the automatic transmission. Now, you can find manual WRXs for under $6,000. If you're really, really lucky, you can get one that works, but realistically, in today's used car market, it's not really possible. So don't hate me too much for getting the automatic. I've certainly regretted my decision and am hoping to sell this car at some point soon, but still, it's a really, really fun and quite capable and fast car. Underneath the hood here is a 2-liter boxer 4-cylinder engine with a turbocharger that makes 227 horsepower. Now, that is more horsepower than in the Forester, but when mated to a 4-speed automatic, everybody is here all at once, this performance experience can seem quite dulled, especially when it comes to the typical single turbo lag that you get. In my personal opinion, if you want a WRX, what I would do is save up and get the manual transmission model. Well, when I say what I would do, that's exactly what I didn't do, but next time I definitely will. This car is at 192,000 miles, but don't worry, it's on its third engine. Yes, you heard that right, third engine. These EJ205s can be quite fragile if you drive them hard. So I don't drive mine hard. My WRX is what we call the blob-eye variant, and there's also a Saab variant, the Saab 92X Aero. If you have one of those, you immediately have my respect. So let's have a look around the cars real quick and then take them out for a drive. Stepping into the Forester, I'm greeted with a very familiar warning chime and a short driving position. When you get behind the wheel of the Forester, first impressions are the fact that it seems a lot more boxy and square and upright, because that's what it is. It's a SUV technically. It's clearly just more made for daily driving, commuting, taking your kids to school. It's obviously more focused for something like that. The seats here are in no way sports seats. There is some side bolster, but not a whole lot, and they don't look as sporty as they do in the WRX. I do have heated seats, which is nice, and you look right here, 5-speed manual transmission, which is what you want from any Subaru. Underneath this little cabinet thing is some storage, which is great. I've got a clock here, just like I do in the WRX. I've got a lot of headroom. I mean, it's definitely more of a daily driver, comfortable, spacious car than in the WRX. Also, there is a lot more room in the back seat, which is clear for a car of this size and for this purpose. Not all that nice up here. You've got the same kind of shiny plastic, lower quality materials that you'd get from this time period from cars. There's a lot more colors in here, which is interesting, like gray, somewhat lighter gray, silver, somewhat lighter silver, chrome, gray, black. That's a little weird, but we'll just move past that. Into the Impreza WRX we go. As I stated before, these seats in the WRX are much nicer looking, much more sporty, better side bolstering and protection to keep you from flying out on the rally stage. It is definitely a smaller car in here. You notice it as soon as you get back in it. It's a lot lower, just smaller in every single proportion. Just like with the Forester, you've got not really great quality, kind of cheap, crappy materials, lots of different colors, black, gray, silvers, and 4-speed automatic transmission, which is not what any WRX owner would ever want out of their car. So in a moment, we will find out if this completely ruins the experience. The back seat is a lot smaller than it is in the Forester, and overall, it's a smaller car, so it's gonna be less practical, obviously. All right. So, there you go. There is a somewhat thorough tour of both of these cars. Now it's time for the real meat on the bones. Which one of these is the most enjoyable to drive? Take your guesses. Is it going to be the rally-inspired, turbocharged, 227 horsepower, 4-wheel drive Impreza, or is it going to be the more modest and taller, more boxy, heavier, and less powerful second-generation Subaru Forester with the manual transmission? Manual transmission Subaru Forester with an exhaust, because any good Subaru needs an exhaust, right? What's that? Oh yeah, okay. Ooh, okay. Again, I often talk a lot of trash on modified Subaru exhausts. This one actually sounds kind of good. I think that was fifth. Oh yeah, there you go. Heel and toe downshifting is quite easy. And the tires do kind of catch on arches. There's a lot of noises coming from everywhere in this car. Let's hit it. Ooh, the brake pedal feels not inspiring a whole lot of confidence, but it's there. It slows the car, so I'm not too worried about that. What I do like about the Forester, this Forester in particular, is the fact that rev match downshifting is really easy. I mean, it's not often that I get into heel-toe downshifting like that straight off the bat, driving an unfamiliar manual transmission car, but I gotta say, oh yeah, it does. There's fifth again. I think every manual transmission Japanese car that I've ever driven, and ignore this shoe thing, by the way, I don't know why it's there. Every Japanese manual car that I've ever driven was, like, the shifter has this beautiful notchy feel to it. And it just, I mean, it gives you so much more feel. Oh yeah. I just feel so gloriously connected, and that's what makes a manual transmission great. The clutch is a little vague, but I mean, there's the interesting thing about these Subarus for me is that there's not all that much pedal travel. Here we go again. Second to fifth gear, but man, it does. It might be the extra noise, might be the more connected feel of the manual, but this feels quite a bit quicker than I was expecting, given 170 horsepower in an SUV. I mean, I look up at the ceiling and it's surprisingly quite far away from my head, which for being a tall person is kind of surprising. Love Subaru manuals. Handling's not that great, but I think it's a really compelling package. Gonna be hard for the WRX to beat it, but we shall see. It's getting quite dark. Luckily, the interior lights of the Impreza are better than the interior lights on the Forester, so we're good. Oh wait. Alright, I'm ready to drive my Subaru now. It doesn't have that satisfaction even going from a start that the Forester has, but what it does kind of make up for is much better handling with a much lower center of gravity. Where the WRX feels a little bit more special is when you put your foot down. That turbocharged 2-liter boxer engine really does make a difference. It does feel a lot quicker than the Forester, but in some instances, especially with an automatic transmission and when you're going up hills, it'll lock into second gear, as far as I can tell, and won't go back out. So you basically have no power. And if you're lucky and you kick it down, then it just throws you back in your seat. So it's not an easy car to drive on a daily basis, but it is quite fun because of the turbo. Really, that's all that makes it fun. hear it too. I mean, this car is completely stock, unmodified, and it still makes those whooshy whooshy turbo noises that you would expect from a WRX. So we go around a hill up here. Again, come on. There we go. The power is always late because the turbocharger has to spool up, and it's especially late when the car thinks, I'll go into third gear, save some fuel, and you have completely no power. In a lot of real life instances, like exploiting a gap that you see in, changing lanes, I think the Forester might actually have this thing licked. Come on. Now it won't go out of second gear. I think it's second gear. The turbo lag with automatic, 10% of the time it's funny. 90% of the time when you're just trying to drive the car, it's annoying. But that's just how it is with the 4-speed automatic and a turbocharged boxer engine. So on a daily driver perspective, I think I would definitely, even though this has the automatic, which is usually better for daily driving and in traffic, I think for daily driving I'd have the Forester because of the way the Forester's power band is so much easier to use than it is in the WRX, especially with the automatic. I feel like for everyday driving, the Forester is just easier and less annoying. Fun and smiles per gallon, that's really a tricky one because the Forester feels so connected and so enjoyable with its manual transmission, and it's a good manual transmission. It's beautifully notchy and makes you feel connected, makes you feel part of the driving experience. While the Forester feels more connected and just really enjoyable. The WRX, with the turbo noises, the extra power, and the turbo lag that ends up with you being thrown back in your seat, when you're looking for it, it's really, really enjoyable, and it always puts a smile on my face no matter what. But that's when I want it to happen, when I deliberately cause it. So that's a really tricky one to answer on the smiles per gallon basis. I think at this point the real winner that we have to crown has to go to Legacy GT with a manual transmission. I'm completely out of ideas, so sorry. I've wasted all of your time, and I don't know how to answer this question properly. It's really up to you guys what you look for in a daily driver and what you look for on a miles per gallon basis. So if you're looking for it, make sure you get the one that you want. You have to know what you want before you go for it. That's the lesson that I've learned with this car. If I could get a manual WRX, I would 100% take that over both of the cars, but it's quite hard at this budget. And again, if I could take a turbo Forester with a manual, I would take it over both of these cars. So with this era of Subaru, you get a lot of choice. Everybody, that's gonna do it for me on today's video. I hope everybody enjoyed the Subaru content and that you'll be back for the next video. So thanks everybody for watching, and have a great day.